Hey kids, are you still trying to get your hands on an NES Classic Edition or a Super NES Classic? I'm sure the scalpers have toned down a bit since Nintendo made, obviously, plenty of consoles to flood the market with product so that... Oh no. Oh my, is this the current price? June 2022, seriously? The list price is nearly over $200 for each one. Still, I mean, sure, there are others selling it for $110 each, but that's still high. So you're thinking, well, maybe there's a new mini console around the corner that I can buy at retail price instead of having to pay what a scalper wants? Well, actually, there is. This is Stryker of Enyo, and this is my wish list for the Sega Mega Drive Mini 2, also known as the Sega Genesis Mini 2. Please ignore the obvious guy standing in the background wearing a random YouTuber shirt. Totally random shirt, not Metal Jesus Rocks whatsoever himself. Please do not search for his name, it doesn't exist. Earlier in 2022, Sega announced on their official YouTube channel that a new Mega Drive Mini was set to release in Japan on October 27th of 2022. Then a few months later, Sega officially announced that the USA was going to be getting the Sega Genesis Mini 2, also released on October 27th. There was a rumor floating around that an inside source had said that February 2023 was going to be the worldwide release. So maybe that's for the PAL version? At the moment, the USA is only getting it through Amazon, and that's actually like Japan of Amazon. So maybe the worldwide release will see stuff in stores in the US, and also maybe the PAL version will come out then. We don't really know yet. And at this time, we don't know the full game list for the Japanese Mini 2 or the Genesis Mini 2. We do have a partial list, and though there are some good choices, I have been kinda disappointed with many of the titles announced so far. So let's draft up our own wish list of games that we would like to see on the Mega Drive Mini 2 release for Europe and the must-have games on the Sega Genesis Mini 2 release for the US. These are the games we want on the Mega Drive Mini 2 / Sega Genesis Mini 2. Ultimate Edition? Ultimate Edition. Can I do that? This isn't another version, but lots of people are making lists like this. I just want to stand out, so yeah, this is the Ultimate Edition, or the Definitive Edition. Definitive Edition! Yeah, let's do that. Why does the guy say it like that? He sounds bored. But wait, there's more! I also decided to future-proof this video. You might ask, well, Stryker, what the hell does that mean? Even though my title and thumbnail for the video originally reflects the release of the Mega Drive Mini 2, once October 27th comes and the Mini 2 officially releases, then I will change the title and thumbnail to reflect that this is a wish list that should be used for the Mega Drive Mini 3, or whatever it's going to be called. It looks like we're going to be getting the 2 Lunar games and Final Fight CD, but for most of the games I'm going to suggest in this video, they're not going to be on the Mini 2. So just transfer my recommendations to the Mega Drive Mini 3 instead. Nice idea, huh? Well, I put a decent amount of effort into researching UK magazine review scores, adding funny moments, and editing this video, so I want to be able to continue to get views on this video past the usual 6 months that the topic normally would be relevant. So even if the Mini 2 is out, come back here and savor at all the games they still missed putting in. But first, we have a few rules because, of course we do, I am Stryker of Enyo after all. I'm not going to recommend any games that we have seen before in previous mini consoles or recent Sega collections. You've seen them before, I've seen them before. I'm interested in what's new, and I need to whittle down the number of games that we're going to talk about in this video to something that's more manageable. So, number 1, no games from the Genesis Mini from 2019. These 42 games were included in the last Sega Genesis console. You know them, I know them, there's no need to bring them up again. Number 2, no games from the Sega Genesis Classics. This game is a compilation of 50+ Genesis titles and is already available on the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. You might notice I didn't pronounce it compilation. Well, that's because I'm not an idiot. The word is compilation. And rule number 3, no games that are currently being marketed individually or as part of a collection. So even though most of us would love to have Mega Drive classics like Aladdin, Lion King, and Jungle Book, well, these are already part of the Disney Games Classics collection, so Disney probably wants you to buy that collection instead of getting them for cheap on the Mini 2 or 3. This also means we probably won't see any Genesis Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle titles, since all of them are going to be part of the Cowabunga collection, released later in 2022. There are other games that are also part of their own collection, so most likely we're not going to be seeing The Immortal, The Humans, Gym Power, or even Zombies Ate My Neighbors, because yeah, that had a recent remaster as well, along with Ghoul Patrol. And yes, in the UK, apparently the game is just referred to as Zombies. They removed the Ate My Neighbors part of the title for some reason. And in this UK ad, I don't know why all these zombies look like Doc Brown from the Back to the Future films. It looks weird, right? Marty, I'm a zombie, Marty. Brains, Marty. It's also your kids again. Just because these games are being sold as part of other collections, it doesn't mean that these games can't show up in the Mini 2, but chances are they are under license for different hardware at the moment, so we'll skip these for now. Sound good? All right, let's... Mom! I'm recording, Mom! I put the hanger on the doorknob. That means I'm recording. I have over 5,000 subscribers. That means I easily have about 1 million people listening to me right now. Pull yourself together, Mom. I know you're proud of me, but I just need to talk to my fans. Just stop crying. What? Yes, I'm hungry. How about some pizza rolls? I love those pizza rolls. And get that sauce that I like, too. No, not ketchup. That other stuff. It's red, but it's better. No, I told you, it's not ketchup. Just go find it. Sheesh. So let's look at those games. Games only on Sega CD. I've organized the games into a few different categories, so I hope it's easier to find what you're looking for. As you would expect, first let's go through a bunch of titles that are only found on the Sega CD, also the Mega CD. Oh, and please forgive me if I don't always use the nomenclature that you're used to. I will use Genesis and Mega Drive interchangeably. I don't mean any disrespect, but I'm talking about games that released in 2 different territories. When I say Sega CD, I also mean the Mega CD, but I might not always say both names. So now let's finally talk about... What? The hanger was on the doorknob! What could you possibly need? What do you mean you're out of pizza rolls? What do you do all day? Go to the store and stock up for the weekend. I need to record more audio commentaries. What do you mean gas is high? How does that affect me?
I got chicken nuggets.
Ooh, I could go for some chicken nuggets. That sounds good. Make that.
What about dipping
No,
sauce?
ketchup is fine with chicken nuggets, just never with pizza rolls, okay?
Okay, bye.
All right, bye. All right, now on to the list. Let's get the obvious one out of the way first, Snatcher. This is the only official English translation that has ever been done for Snatcher on the Sega CD. Done by the same man that handled the translation for the original Metal Gear Solid on PlayStation 1. Snatcher was directed by Hideo Kojima, and it contains a rather interesting story and some striking visuals. Yes, you will often hear that the story is a mishmash of other science fiction properties. Like in Snatcher, you basically play as a Blade Runner trying to retire replicants, but now the replicants are actually machines underneath their skin, and they bear a striking resemblance to a Terminator. But all of this isn't done in a bad way. You gotta admit that when the Japanese see something that they like, they have no qualms about ripping it off and making it better. Just look at all the anime that blatantly use lightsabers. They don't ever explain how it works or where it came from, they just use it. Snatcher is primarily a narrative-driven game. It's basically what we would call an interactive novel nowadays, sometimes still referred to as a visual novel. These were much more popular in Japan on the early CD format consoles, like the PC Engine, CD, and the Saturn. In Snatcher, you interview people and ask questions and do some detective work, and every so often there's a shooting gallery section to add some action, which was also compatible with the Konami Justifier light gun, but the controller works fine. Konami didn't really believe the concept would do well in the States. Visual novels really weren't a thing in video games for us yet, and so they published an extremely limited run of only about 3,000 copies. When you looked in the gaming magazines of the time, the game got a lot of great scores, but Konami never shipped any more copies of the game. I originally bought a copy for $130 US back in the early 2000s, But nowadays, you can expect to pay $500 or more depending on the condition of the packaging. Most collectors would easily buy the Mini 2 just to own a legal copy of this game alone.
Gillian, I read motion. Use extreme caution. The signal is coming from outside the window.
It's Alice!
The dog is dead. Body temperature suggests it was killed about 10 minutes ago.
I know the superior versions of the two Lunar games are on the PlayStation, but physical versions of both of these have skyrocketed in price in the last decade. The two Lunar games are well known for having a fantastic localization by working designs. What begins as your typical RPG story turns into a fun adventure with likable characters and memorable moments. The sequel, Lunar Eternal Blue, has several improvements and even better story. Regardless of which version is better, both have a wonderful soundtrack that has become a staple of the series. You get fully animated cutscenes in several places, a solid battle system, even though it can be a bit repetitive. But if they bring these games over to the Mini 2, I really hope that they can change the text in the game. It's just kind of annoying when all the dialogue is in caps locks, which makes it seem like everyone is... Oh, sorry, it's force of habit. It makes it seem like everyone is shouting at each other. It's a small gripe, sure, but it still would be nice to have the original Sega CD versions for both of these games. They got expensive rather quickly back in the day, so I never really got a chance to find them and play either one of them all these years later. For many, the two Lunar games are still regarded as being the best RPGs for the Sega CD. Then we have Dark Wizard. Dark Wizard is one of the best Sega CD RPG games, and it is a rather good early tactical RPG. Fans of Fire Emblem will find some solid gameplay and a similar feel. Yes, I know about the guy in issue 21 of the UK magazine called Mega, who scored it a 45%, but in the review he literally says he skipped reading the manual, he got stuck, and then later he couldn't make any further progress after playing for a few hours and quit. I mean, what? You don't print a review on a game in a professional gaming magazine if you didn't finish the game. This is your job. You actually get paid for it. You should be required to understand the basics of a game and finish it if you are going to submit a review for it. How can you present a review in your magazine if the reviewer admits he can't figure out how the game even works and then gave up on it after a few hours? He's an idiot. Look at this review from Sega Pro. That's a 73. That's a good score. Not great, but it's good. Dark Wizard is a deep and complex RPG that isn't for everyone, I'll admit that. But its appreciation has grown over the years, and it's still gonna cost you a little more than $100 US today for a used copy. So even though it's kind of a complex game, I still would absolutely love to play this today. And then there was a review by Sega Visions that described it as, quote, one of the most massive, all-encompassing role-playing experiences a gamer can get, with, quote, some of the best executed and animated intros ever seen. Now, granted, this was for 1994, but still, pretty impressive. Sega Visions magazine even mentioned that the amount of side content was impressive, with the game containing possibly over 300 hours of play. I just can't... That other guy, look, I'm sorry, what's his name? I can't believe, he didn't even read the manual. He literally didn't even want to bother to read the manual to the game. Who the hell is this guy? What is it? Paul Mellerick. Well, a tediously complex and potentially sleep-inducing RPG just when we thought RPGs had seen the light. Dear Lord, look, I'm sorry, buddy, but you got the wrong call, but quite honestly, you never should have been allowed to review the game if you didn't finish it. If you couldn't finish the game, goddamn, Paul, like, come on. You should have handed the review off to somebody else that was a little bit bigger fan of RPGs.
Chelsea, what's the matter?
Your Majesty, for Chelsea, this is the day when her tears of sorrow have changed to tears of joy. Although she is fearful of your vow to defeat the evil monster Velanese, she truly is happy on this her wedding day. The new queen would give her life for you. She loves you so. I couldn't be happier.
Vi is another one of the best Sega CD games available. and it never got ported to another console, even though it did show up on iPhones in 2008. I know it's yet another RPG, but the main reason this game is so sought after is because it's one of those well-known titles that was localized by Working Designs for the United States. You are the prince and you are about to be married, but then a mech shows up, kills your parents, and steals your bride. Dear Lord, really? What's with games stopping your wedding and stealing the bride? Isn't that the plot to Ghosts and Goblins? Well, in the game, maybe it wasn't my wedding, but I was nearly naked, so we were definitely about to get it on. But here in Vi, I know that I must have the worst case of blue balls in history, and I can't fix it until I get her back, which is going to take, 15 hours? I mean, you know, let the boning begin once I get her back, but man, that's a lot of stuff to do for a girl. The game is definitely a step down from Lunar and Popful Mail. The visuals and sound are rather average for the Sega CD, but remember, Working Designs translated the game into English. They didn't make it. The game has been criticized for its generic and unoriginal story with random battles that trigger way too often, but the one saving grace is the high quality of the dialogue itself. It's interesting to see what the characters are going to say, and you kind of want to find out how things are going to end. There is this sense of importance and seriousness about the way they talk, and you also have a large game world and a number of playable characters. If you have played everything else on the Sega CD, then you might want to try Vi. In 2006, you could get it for $10 on eBay, and that included shipping, but today, it sells for around $130 US, without the instruction manual. If you want a complete version, that's going to run you at least $170. If they don't decide to include this, be sure to add this game yourself once we can hook up an external hard drive to the Mini 2. If you've ever delved really deep into 16-bit games or even Genesis and Sega CD stuff, then you're going to recognize the name Wolf Team. In Devastator, you pilot a mech and you switch between shooting stages and platforming that also have shooting. This is a game that had some good scores in magazines back in the day, but you will find the graphics can be a bit uneven. Some levels have lots of shooting and great visuals, and then some just kind of seem to be above average. This is a fun action game that can be a blast at times with some great designs and visuals. It doesn't leave a lasting impression, but it is fun while it lasts. For those that don't remember Devastator, I will kind of admit I cheated. Devastator was only released in Japan and Korea, so this game probably has no chance to show up on the North American or PAL version of the Mini console, but be sure to add it yourself once modders get their hands on the Mini 2. Then we have this somewhat interesting game called Flink, or also known as the Misadventures of Flink. It's a gorgeous looking game, but the gameplay might not be as solid nowadays. Shut up! Stupid dogs. They see a squirrel with a nut and they think, hey, I want to have sex with that squirrel. It's been a while since I've tried it out. Still, I often see this game with some solid ratings across multiple magazines. It might be a good choice. Saturn owners may remember importing Keio Flying Squadron 2 back when they barely had any North American titles to play. This is the original game that's only on the Sega CD. Keio Flying Squadron is a side-scrolling shooter, but as you can tell, it's also a cute-em-up, a shooter with an animated or distinctive art style, with lots of vibrant colors and cute enemy designs. It plays well, has good controls, and also has a great CD soundtrack. It is super expensive nowadays. I'm not even going to show you what the price is, so adding it to the Mini would be nice. Rise of the Dragon. Okay, so this one might be leaning a little more toward being one of my own personal favorites, since there have been several cyberpunk-inspired games released in the last few years. I mean, seriously, there's been like 22 or 25 of them already. Rise of the Dragon might not be a bad choice. You're not going to see it with very high scores in magazines, and I'd still rather have Snatcher, obviously, over this, but Rise of the Dragon might not cost that much to license for putting on the Mini 2. It might not be as colorful as the PC original, and GOG has that PC version that will easily run on modern computers, but this is still a decent adventure, and it'd be nice to play it with a Genesis controller all over again. Oh, dear Lord, why would you name your energy drink C4? God damn, Mom. I mean, I get it. I like Skittles, but you just don't taste all the Skittles in this drink. I gotta talk to that woman. It's gotta be Monster or nothing. I just need to explain it to her, like a child explaining loot boxes to a monkey. Next up is the required FMV games. Again, several of these have actually seen remastered versions on PlayStation 4, so there really isn't any reason to play the lower quality video versions from the Sega CD or Mega CD. Some of you are familiar with the newer releases of Night Trap, Double Switch, Corpse Killer, and even Ground Zero Texas. And yes, even a remaster of Prize Fighter has been announced, so let's skip all of those. Sewer Shark. What can you say about Sewer Shark that hasn't been said before? I guess that I would actually like to see Sewer Shark on the Mini 2. I mean, seriously, it's not necessarily a high-rated game. It's an FMV game, but, you know, it's cheesy. It's got some great dialogue. It's kind of fun to play. It'd be nice to try this out again. And since Sega basically owns it, it hasn't really showed up on many other platforms. Well, aside from 3DO but still, it'd be one I'd like to try again.
Look at those totals, dog meat. They look reconstituted frog slime. I'm shipping you back to flight school. See how you like flying the desks, front brain.
Tomcat Alley was one of those FMV games that always got relatively solid scores in the gaming magazines of the time. I mean, at least compared to the other FMV games like Night Trap and Double Switch and Corpse Killer and Ground Zero Texas. I mean, seriously, Tomcat Alley usually would get a little bit higher of a score than some of those other ones. I always liked this one, and it has never showed up on another platform, so it would be perfect to throw in with this collection. And with the recent release of the new Top Gun movie, this would probably be the best time to include a game like this in a collection. Fahrenheit is a game that has never appeared on any other platform besides the Sega CD. From what I gathered from the stream using auto-generated English titles, it seems like the Sega Mega Drive Mini 2 is not going to have the ability to play 32X titles, but if they ever do a Mini 3, well then why not include the Sega CD 32X versions of some games? Most notably, the one for Fahrenheit. It offers the best quality video, and even though I will admit that the Sega CD version has slightly better controls and better on-screen indicators, back when I played both versions, I did notice that the better video quality of the Sega CD 32X actually reveals some of the cheapness in the sets. That's right, you can actually notice the fake walls and the cheap decor in some of the rooms much easier, whereas in the Sega CD version, it has such bad video that you don't even notice. Golf Magazine's 36 Great Holes. Dear Lord, that is a horrible, horrible title. You know, I wouldn't mind a decent 16-bit golf game in the pack. Licensing might be a nightmare, so any Genesis version of PGA Tour Golf will probably never go through the licensing process, but I still wouldn't mind one. I understand I might be cheating since this is actually a Sega 32X title, and as far as we know, that's not going to be in the Mega Drive Mini 2, but maybe for the Mega Drive Mini 3, with our fingers crossed, hopefully coming out sometime. But since this is a Sega 32X title, you could argue whether it's still considered a 16-bit game. I mean, I guess it's not, but Golf Magazine's 36 Great Holes, dear Lord. It was a solid game back then, and it has a slight visual advantage over other golf games on the Mega Drive. If 36 great holes can't be... Jeez. Every time I say the name of the game, it seems like I'm in a Beavis and Butthead sketch. You said great holes. Oh yeah, I did. God. Games with a superior Sega CD version. So now we will go through a bunch of games that have a superior Sega CD version that would be nice to see instead of the standard Mega Drive version, which is what we often see with these mini consoles. Earthworm Jim Special Edition. We have seen the original Earthworm Jim game show up in several of these Sega collections, and even though Xbox 360 has a nice looking version called Earthworm Jim HD, I'm not exactly sure how fans feel about this particular console version. But since the Mini 2 is including Sega CD titles, then why not give us what is often considered to be the superior version to the original Mega Drive release, Earthworm Jim Special Edition on the Sega CD/Mega CD, of course. Most scores for this game are in the high 90s for both the US and UK video game magazines. This should be an easy game to recommend, and it should be fairly easy to get for this collection. Then we have both Ecco the Dolphin and Ecco the Tides of Time. I know, Ecco the Dolphin was included on the original Sega Genesis Mini, but since the doors have been opened, I want to finally see the Sega CD versions be included. The Sega CD version of the game has some new enhanced features, including redesigned levels and a Q-Sound audio soundtrack that sounds absolutely beautiful with a pair of headphones. How's the sequel? Well, take the original Mega Drive version of Ecco 2 and then add a beautiful and atmospheric soundtrack, some improved sound effects, plus a few more additions, and you got Ecco the Tides of Time on Sega CD. You could argue that it's more of the same in this sequel, and you wouldn't be wrong, but since nearly every Sega-endorsed collection has thrown in an Ecco the Dolphin game, they could at least give us the Sega CD versions with their vastly improved music and gameplay changes. If you have never been able to get into the Ecco the Dolphin games, especially the cartridge versions, I don't blame you. You should be trying out the Sega CD versions. They are the absolute best way to be introduced to the series. Eternal Champions, Challenge from the Dark Side. Also known as simply Eternal Champions CD. Yes, the original Eternal Champions was also on the Sega Genesis Mini from 2019, but the Sega CD version is meant to be the far superior version, so why not throw this version in there? It has all the fighters from the first game, and it adds 13 new playable characters, 9 of which are hidden, and a new boss. They added their own version of fatalities called Sin Kills. Combo attacks have been introduced, and jumping attacks can be linked to ground attacks, and most normal attacks can be linked to other normal attacks. Plus, the color palette has been increased. No, it's still not a very good fighting game, receiving slightly above average ratings back when it released, but now more people have a chance to play it for themselves and decide if a third game should finally be made after all these years. No, seriously, the original creator is kind of trying to make a third game happen. It has been reported that Challenge from the Dark Side sold better in the US than the Genesis versions of Street Fighter II, and that is rather impressive. There are a few games you might be expecting, like Final Fight CD, but Stryker, it's still the best version of Final Fight on the home console. Well, is that still true today? After all, you can play a perfect version of the arcade game on newer consoles. So, do we still need the Sega CD version? Well, yes and no. Let me explain. Final Fight CD retains nearly all the features of the arcade game. It has the 2-player co-op mode, the industrial area stage, and the ability to play as any of the 3 main characters. They also added voice acting to the game's opening and ending cinematics, and a time attack mode that is exclusive to the Sega CD version. But the maximum number of on-screen enemies is less than the arcade version, and the visuals suffer from a more limited color palette, and there is less detail in the backgrounds. But what makes the Sega CD version a must-own still today is the all-new arranged version of the original soundtrack. The music goes hard at times, and it is simply outstanding. Some argue that it is one of the best arrangements from an arcade game of all time. Sega's own in-house sound team handled the music, simply called T-Music. Now in 2010, the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 got Final Fight Double Impact. It contained the full arcade version of Final Fight, along with the arcade version of Magic Sword. It also has several additions, like online co-op and an arranged soundtrack composed by Simon Viklund, which sounds good, but it just can't compare to the Sega CD version. You also got a gallery that has concept art, fan art, certain pages from Capcom comic books that use Final Fight characters. Yeah, that's right, it's just certain pages, it's not the entire comics themselves, which kinda sucks. And by completing a certain in-game challenge, you can even unlock the Final Fight episode of the Street Fighter the Animated series. So I bet you're digging through your collection right now so you can figure out how to unlock that episode. I mean, it's still not very good video quality, but I mean, this is what it looks like. The full arcade version of Final Fight also shows up in the Capcom Beat 'em Up bundle and in the Capcom Arcade Stadium. So if you want the perfect arcade experience, try one of the newer Capcom collections. But the best soundtrack will always be the Sega CD version. So is Final Fight CD still the best version of Final Fight that you can get on the home console? Well, I mean, visually, no. It just happens to have the best soundtrack. And, well, maybe you can listen to the soundtrack on YouTube while you play your arcade perfect versions in the Capcom collections. So it's kind of up to you what plays best for you. Do you want the best music, but you don't mind the downgraded 16-bit visuals? Or do you want the faithful arcade graphics with online multiplayer, scaling and smoothing effects, and extra art, but you only get decent music? Well, it's up to you. Solid to decent Mega Drive games. So now let's look at some Mega Drive games, also known as Genesis, of course. But we don't want anything that's too good, because that would cost money to license. So we want games that would just qualify as being solid to possibly decent.
Let's use our imagination.
First up is Barney's Hide and Seek games. Why not? It's the highest scoring Barney game on the Mega Drive. See? Well, okay, it's also the only one, so it wins by default. All right, let's get to the real list.
I see a friend. Remember, I love you.
Mutant League Football would be nice to see. It might not be the most highest scoring sports franchise on the Genesis, but it was always a fun time. What's that? Never heard of it? Well, it's American football with 16 teams of aliens, robots, mutants, and other creatures in one of the most violent sports around. It roughly plays like American football with pass and run plays, and you want to score a touchdown. But every once in a while it throws in a unique play, like bribing the ref. Okay, sounds great, but what if the other team bribes him first? Well, then you can call an audible and kill him. You get special audibles that give you super speed, invisibility, and a lot more. And the location that you pick can drastically change the playfield. You might have slippery glaciers, maybe you need to navigate a minefield, avoid hot rocks, or try not to get too close to the edge to avoid getting sucked out into space.
Correction, sir. That's blown out.
Shut the hell up, Data! I don't need you! Killing the opponent's players happens frequently, and killing enough of them can win you the game as well. So you're never too far behind on the scoreboard. It's not a bad game for a single-player experience, but the true genius is in playing with a friend head-to-head. This game also spawned a Saturday morning cartoon series, where they happened to sneak one past the censors by showing a player getting his head cut off.
There's that famous Bones Justice Step-On! Lasky didn't have a chance!
So no head?
I know, hard to believe, huh? Since the game doesn't carry an NFL or a player's license, you would think that it would be a sure bet for the Mini too, but it seems the Mutant League name is still owned by EA, and they haven't been too generous when it comes to letting people use their old properties, even if they never plan to use them themselves. It actually saw a release on the PSP back in November of 2006, but the series has not seen an official release anywhere else. Michael Mendheim, the original creator and lead designer of the Mutant League series, actually created a spiritual successor called Mutant Football League. I see what you did there. That released in 2017 for PC, Xbox One, and the PlayStation 4, and even some mobile platforms. And it even showed up on the Switch in 2018. I remember it got solid scores back then. It had some good visuals and a rather robust Dynasty mode, so maybe you want to check it out sometime. Still, it would be nice to see Mutant League Football or Mutant League Hockey once again on this Mini. Quackshot was one of the higher scoring Donald Duck games back then, and I often hear fans of the Mega Drive still praise this title today. So maybe it can also make its way onto the Mini 2. Without a doubt, the European Mega Drive Mini 2 version should get Brian Laura Cricket. Easily the best cricket game on the Mega Drive thanks to Codemasters. And yes, a Yank just recommended a 16-bit cricket game. Did I play it? Hell no! I've tried to play newer versions of cricket and I got no idea on what to do, how to make a home run, or even how to round the bases in order to score. But I saw the reviews in the latest UK gaming magazines, and by latest I mean from back in 1995. Look at these scores, an 88 in Mean Machines, an 85 in Sega Pro. In this version of the game, you got multiple camera angles and a number of options that will keep you busy for a long time as you like cricket. As they say, it will have you running like the clappers toward the wicket just before Gooch bowled you out. If you have any idea what I just said, explain it in the comments, because I don't have the foggiest. And take a look at this. This ad is for a newer version of the game, but look at this guy. Just look at him. This is the look of a man who you do not want to f*** with. Or maybe you do, because he actually seems like he's having a pretty good time. Road Rash 3. You might have noticed that they actually put Road Rash 2 on the original Genesis Mini, so picking the third one of the franchise isn't a far-off idea. Road Rash 2 was still one of the better 16-bit games in the series, so why not give us the sequel to that, Road Rash 3? It didn't necessarily get the absolute highest scores back when it released, but it still plays decent, and it has some nice additions. Earning money becomes a big part of this game. You can upgrade your bikes for the first time in the series, but if a cop pulls you over, then you got to pay a fine and you lose whatever you had earned so far in that race. If you continue to lose money, then you'll find yourself working for the bike shop owner as a repo man, or working as a snitch for the cops. Yeah, it's hardcore. Either option you choose, you'll need to get back into good standing with your fines until you can continue to race. It's kind of interesting to see this type of depth in a 16-bit game. This time there are more obstacles and sprites on screen than ever before, but unfortunately the frame rate takes a big hit because of this, with several instances dropping below 20 frames per second. It would be nice if the good folks at M2 could improve the FPS while working on the emulation. I've heard if you have an overclocked Genesis, then it can actually help out quite a bit with the frame rate. So let's hope that M2 can find a debugger mode or whatever they need to in order to make that happen. There's really a good amount of content in Road Rash 3 despite some of the issues. It's got several bikes, tracks, weapons, and a good amount of challenge in the second half, so expect to get hours of playtime out of this one. Road Rash CD would also be a nice addition. No, it can't compare to the PlayStation or the Saturn versions, but the music is good, the frame rate is better than the 16-bit versions, and the FMV clips are still kind of funny to see, even though they look terribly washed out compared to the 32-bit versions. It would be nice to play either one of these Road Rash titles once again. You might be thinking, what about Bubsy 2? It got a good score. Look, Stryker, an 86. That's pretty good. And it got an 84 in Mean Machines. That makes it a great game. No fucking Bubsy games whatsoever. Damn it, where are my chicken nuggets? Mom! Mom, can you go out to the garage, go down into the cellar, back behind the washing machine and get me a can of Monster? I feel lightheaded, so I need the sugar. I don't want to become a diabetic like Grandma, so I need it pretty soon. You got that? Okay, well that'll keep her busy. I swear, if I don't tell her to do stuff, she just sits there and watches Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy all day. Just useless. Oh man, I think I'm almost out of Doritos too. Of course, there are several other games that are very good, but I really don't think that Sega will be able to get the license for some of them. Or the license just might be too expensive to be able to put on this new mini console. But I would also like to recommend The Adventures of Willy Beamish, Double Dragon, Shadowrun, Pitfall the Mayan Adventure, Terminator CD, Tiny Toons Adventures. The 2 X-Men games on Genesis are also well loved, but Disney would probably need to approve the deal, and they most likely would just make their own collection of X-Men games, I guess. I personally love the Cool Spot games, but 7-Up stopped using the mascot back in 1997, so it doesn't seem very likely that he will appear in the Sega Genesis Mini 2. But there's always hope for the Sega Genesis Mini 3. But you should definitely add all of these games yourself once they hack the Mini 2. Sega also announced that there was going to be a special game that was going to be included in their Mega Drive Mini 2, which turned out to be a game that was made for the Mega Drive over in Japan, but never officially released. So, in staying with that tradition, I would like to recommend an unreleased game that was nearly complete for North America and European territories. It's the one, the only, Super Strike Trilogy, consisting of the 3 16-bit games in the series, Desert Strike, Jungle Strike, and Urban Strike. Now, back in July of 2017, Robert Grosso made a playable version of Super Strike Trilogy when he came across an unreleased Sega CD prototype. Over the years, a more complete version has been put together, including the completely redone CD soundtrack. I'm not exactly sure about all the changes and upgrades that Super Strike Trilogy was originally supposed to have, but one of the selling points was the fact that all the music was going to be redone in CD quality. If you've been able to hear the CD soundtrack, it sounds completely awesome, and it would be great to finally hear this thing officially. The Strike series was really iconic when it came to the Genesis, probably being one of the best-selling trilogies on it. So it would be fantastic to relive those 3 games all over again with a brand new CD soundtrack. Officially, of course, because you can probably find the ROM out there and get it. And finally, I know it's getting kind of long, but I figured as long as I'm waiting here for chicken nuggets, I might as well talk to you guys about stuff. But I would like to recommend that Sega make a partnership with Core Design for the Sega Genesis Mini 2. Or, if they didn't, then they should be doing it for the Mini 3. Core Design is easily best known for creating the original Tomb Raider series. That's right, the first 6 mainstream releases came from them, along with a few additional games on the Game Boy Color and the Game Boy Advance. The last one they did was Tomb Raider: The Angel of Darkness on the PlayStation 2. They are also known for the Fighting Force series, but they also made a number of games for the Genesis and Sega CD. Let's take a look at the games that they developed that would work well on a mini console. Chuck Rock and Chuck Rock 2, Son of Chuck. The original Chuck Rock came out to some fantastic reviews, and I mean several 90s and above in some cases. It had some good ideas, offered a good amount of challenge, sprinkled with some mini puzzles to overcome, and it was a fun experience. I know the sequel, Chuck Rock 2, Son of Chuck, was not as well received, but it seemed to still get decent scores. Both titles have a Sega CD version, but I have not played them in a long time. I do remember that they had new intro sequences for both games, sharper visuals, some extra detail, and an improved soundtrack. And Chuck 2 had extra levels if you played on hard. Definitely a good time between both games. Core Design made 3 Thunderhawk games in total. The first one was on the Sega CD, and it was also one of the better games for the system. Thunderhawk, known as AH-3 Thunderstrike in North America, is a combat flight simulation that was fun as hell at the time. The sprite scaling and rotation was rather impressive for its day, giving you the feeling of flying an attack chopper in a 3D space. Is this still considered a 3D game? I know Doom and Duke Nukem aren't considered fully 3D when they released, but I'm not sure about this game. Look it up for yourself. The scaling is rather well done regardless. You fly around the environment taking out objectives or protecting allies for the most part. You're armed with missiles, rockets, and a machine gun, and it is very satisfying to just destroy objects and buildings. The music is good and the chopper controls incredibly well. It is not really a hard game, but this is a game that's going to last you a little while with about 50 missions in total. The game received critical acclaim, and the Mega CD version was a bestseller in the UK. Next Generation magazine was quoted as saying, "Easily the best game ever released for the Sega CD." Now that's pretty high praise, and that's why I want it on this list.
Incoming bandit. Incoming bandit. Incoming missile.
BC Racers is a game you probably kind of recognize. This game actually started life as Chuck Racer, a Mario Kart style clone using characters from one of the developer's more popular franchises at the time, Chuck Rock. The name got changed before release to appeal to a wider audience. BC Racers isn't a bad game, but it doesn't really take advantage of the hardware it got ported to. It showed up on the Sega CD and the 32X, but neither one ends up being a great game. Back when it was released, it got respectable reviews, but nothing real special. The Sega CD version had weak-sounding engine noises and very basic music. The 32X had all of its sprites redrawn, which added more detail, but then it kinda loses that unique cartoon style of the Sega CD game. The 3D rotation on the 32X is better, and there are more characters on the screen, but it still feels boring, and the overall sound and music is really bland. This game also has a 3DO version, but I never ended up getting it because it was kinda hard to find, so I don't know if that version is better than these. Still, if you're gonna get support from Core Design, then get the two Chuck Rock games, and you might as well throw this racing game in there as well. Battlecorps is a game you don't hear often because when YouTubers do a top 20 on the Sega CD, a game like this usually gets overlooked because it looks like an early first-person shooter, so it gets ignored. And yes, it's called Battlecorps, not Battlecorps. It uses the same naming convention of the Marine Corps. You don't call it the Marine Corps, or you don't call it the Marine Corps, it's just Corps, singular. Same thing with Contra Hardcore. It's not Contra Hardcores, you idiots. But forgive me, I just don't have my Monster Energy drink, so I'm a little testy. This is actually a first-person battle game that is technically impressive considering the hardware. The action is fast with fluid scrolling and movement. You move a mech around in an arena, grabbing power-ups and using a full arsenal to destroy your enemies. You got great visuals and fantastic music. There was a lot of innovation in this title when it came out. It got several high scores from UK gaming magazines back in 1994. Two of them were above a 90. It has a simple-to-learn control scheme and plays well, but nowadays, longtime gamers that have played a lot of fully 3D games are going to miss a strafe option, and some are going to find that it can play a little slow, even though it's meant to be more strategic by design. The game was also extremely long, and it has no save or password system back in the day, something which is easily rectifiable with save slots. It might not be as impressive as it once was, but still a good choice for the Mini 2 or 3. Soulstar is a visual feast, something that Core Design was becoming known for. The sound is superb, and the graphical designs are incredible for a 16-bit machine. Most of the game involves using the strike craft in your standard auto-scrolling shooting levels, but then you have 3D roaming stages with the copter or walker vehicles, where you can freely turn and rotate and move around in 3D environments. The controls work fine for the most part, but in the 3D sections, the vehicles turn really slowly. This is also one of those games where your ship actually blocks your view when you're currently firing forward. It's a big problem in some of the early shooters before you could adjust the camera. This means that you can be shooting a target right in front of you, but your ship is blocking your view, so it's hard to see if your shots are actually hitting the target, or you can't tell if shots are coming from the target right back at you. Maybe if there was a cursor to show where your shots are going would help, but it's hard to get too upset over a game that plays this well. Just look at this. There is so much scaling and rotation going on that at any given moment, this is probably the most impressive looking game Core did on the Sega CD. This is awesome the first time you play it. There are some repetitive and boring aspects to the game, sure, and things can get hard rather fast. You have a tough difficulty setting to deal with, combined with 3 different crafts to learn and master. And you also have 3 different routes to take, so you're definitely going to get your money's worth out of this one. Ratings were good at release. It was a good game. Maybe not great, but either way, a solid game for this mini console. Okay, so this one is probably not considered a classic game for the Mega Drive, but I always liked it. Bubba N Stix. You play as your typical redneck Bubba, yes, that's right, and a talking stick named Stix. Sticks can be used in various ways to help Bubba defeat enemies and get past obstacles. It's obviously a side-scroller with some puzzle elements. It has some nice originality, and it's fun and interesting. And of course, Core Design also made it, so why not throw it on the list? There are also 2 Asterix games that Core worked on for the Mega Drive, Asterix and the Great Rescue, and also Asterix and the Power of the Gods. It's still a licensed property, so getting the rights really lies with the owners of the Asterix name, not just the developer. But these seem to be 2 very solid games, and though the series has a relative small fan base in the US, they might be a good choice for a UK release. And that's our list. I will admit that I don't know who owns the rights to Core Design's old 16-bit games, since in May 2006 the personnel and assets were acquired by Rebellion Developments, and that company became Rebellion Derby, which was then shut down in March of 2010. But it would be worth it to see their games once again on the Mini 2 or even the Mini 3. And, well, that's it! This is the ultimate edition of the wish list for the Sega Mega Drive Mini 2, which is ultimately going to turn into the Mini 3 because we know for a fact that most of these games I've covered are not actually going to be on the Mini 2, so that's why I decided to transfer all this to the inevitable Mini 3. If there are some games that you thought I should have went over but I didn't cover them, then there's a good chance they showed up on a previous Sega collection, or they might be part of a current collection or a remaster. The Japanese Mega Mini Drive 2 will release on October 2022, and just as I was finishing this video, Sega announced that the USA was going to be getting the Genesis Mini 2, also on October 27th. I might make another video once we know what the final game list is for both the Mini 2 systems. I am kind of disappointed with some of the games that have been announced so far, even though there are a few really good ones, so expect some anger in that video, but at least we should be getting the 2 Lunar games and Final Fight CDs. Sound off in the comments if you would like to see that video, give me a like if you think this video was entertaining, or if you don't have the time to think of something to say below, then just throw in a few emojis into a comment. Any interaction really helps me out. Thanks for listening, and sorry for having to use a lot of footage from other YouTubers. I just wasn't home, and I didn't have... What the hell is this? Is this barbecue sauce? Mom, what the fuck have you done? I said ketchup was fine. Why did you switch it? That's called bait and switch, Mom. You baited and switched on me.
I'm sorry, sweetie.
Yes, Mom. No, I'm not mad, but you've disappointed me. Just like you disappointed Dad. If you would have took the time to know how to satisfy Dad, then maybe he wouldn't have left. Mom, I'm sorry. Mom, don't cry. It's unbecoming of a mother for their son to see them cry. Dr. Phil said that, you know. You like Dr. Phil, right? Okay, then please stop. Maybe the viewers will click on another video so we can afford more pizza rolls. If I make you a sign to wear around your neck that says, "Don't forget the ketchup," do you think that someone at the store will stop you and remind you this time? Okay, I love you too. Now get out of my room. Your little boy needs to spank some noobs in Call of Duty now. And don't forget the Monster Energy drink this time. I need my Monster!